There you go.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the second quarter of the City of Westfield Building Corporation. John, quorum, please.
Ron Moore,
Here.
Larry Colino,
Here?
Steve Latour.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Before we go on and to the minutes of the last meeting, I want to make note that the agenda, this particular agenda didn't reflect some changes that we had agreed on. Greg Delagrange is no longer with the Hagerman Group, and the Old Town parking structure should be City of Westfield parking structure, and I apologize for not catching that sooner. The minutes for the March 15th meeting are available and have been published. I would ask if there was any questions or any additions or deletions that we need to go for with this.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of March 15th, 2023.
I will second.
Motion made by Larry Clarino and seconded by Steve Latour.
Larry Colino,
Aye.
Steve Latour,
Aye.
Ron Moore.
Aye. Okay, the next item we have up was an update on Station 81 project with Chief Gaylor.
Good morning, everybody. Rob Gaylor, Westfield Fire Department. I passed out at the beginning of the meeting our itinerary for our bi-weekly meetings, and I'm just going to go through that for update and hopefully answer any questions that you folks may have. To your point, Greg Delagrange is no longer the project manager with the Hagerman firm. He's moved on. Matt Davis is our new project manager, and then Brad Brooks is our new superintendent over the project.
You said Brad Brooks?
Yes. So we started off the meeting just kind of an update on progress and schedule, and their final paint in the admin area and the apparatus bays. They've got some touch-up little things that they need to go back and do, but for the most part, everything is painted, and they're putting flooring down and cleaning up the hard surface, the hard floor, as they go through to finish with the polish and a seal in those areas. Outside, they have most of the apparatus apron and driveways on the front and the backside poured. They're leaving the roadway, if you will, to the path or to the back along the south side open to get the sanitary, so they have room to place the spoil pile as they're digging and running the line there, and then they'll come back in and fill that in. So they're doing some joint seals on the concrete this week. Magna Grip, which is our exhaust removal system, starting actually Monday of this week. They're working on some testing equipment, has some asphalt for the project coming in mid-June, and then landscape, it looks like early July for the landscape. Some updates, we did get the automatic transfer switch ordered. It's scheduled to be delivered on the 21st of June, and the generator is expected to be delivered in week 1 of August. We've got the water and the sewer approvals and the permits and all that is done, and so they've started working on both ends of the lateral and the water supply just to get some of the stuff in until they can get the final approval to make the connections. So if you go out by the site right now, they have some road block set up along 171st Street where they're actually preparing to make the road cut and get that connection across the street, and then they're going to work from like end to end and kind of like meet in the middle on the sanitary line. Let's see what else is of note. As we were going through the project, we did find that there were a couple items that were not relayed to Matt and his team from the exchange. And so we had to go in and they're making some corrections. So small trivial items, the gas line for the range in the kitchen was not in the right spot. So they had to go in, cut some drywall, redo some plumbing, move the pipe, put it back together. The sink basins in the kitchen were not the right ones. So all those items are being corrected as we speak. They made note of that. We walked through the facility after our meeting last week, and there's this, that, and the other, and are getting that all squared away.
Were those all subcontractor issues, basically, or?
Quite honestly, it was architectural drawings and room data sheets. What they drew was what they put in. The room data sheets necessarily weren't referenced for that project when those items were ordered. So they ordered the wrong parts, and then when you get a changeover of that command, it just didn't get passed down to them in a timely manner, and their subs just come in and started putting stuff in place.
We're not talking any cost overruns or anything like that, right?
Not on those items. That is all on them. It was directed, no, we stated this in this meeting, this date and time, and you guys dropped the ball. And they're making everything right. They recognize that that's all on them, and they're fixing the issue.
Great.
Before you go into,
Yes, sir.
do you have you mentioned the sewer and the connections. Do you have an anticipated date when they'll have that project in line and completed?
So right now, they're hoping to be complete by the end of June with the sanitary line, and then they're bringing in what's called a water buffalo, just a big water tank, so they can get water in the lines to do some actually wet tests instead of vacuum tests. And then they'll bring that water out of the lines. With the sanitary project, you've got to let it set for 30 days before you can hook up the water for everything to settle and this, that, and the other. So they should be done with the sanitary project at the end of June. Our 30-day set puts us into July, and then they'll come back and set the generator and take delivery of that the first week of August. So get that thing set. Middle of August, and then just small punch list items, I would assume, between July and August to finish up.
So by mid-August, you should have all those things kind of wrapped up. We're pretty close to it.
Yes.
Okay.
They did put temporary permanent power in, so they got off of their essential substation drop off of the transformer on the pole on site and moved it to actually the building. It's temporary permanent power because they got to put the generator in, the transfer switch, but they wanted to get power into the building so they could go through and make sure they have all their connections and everything correct, and labeling all the panels and all that.
Do they have the panel now?
They do have all the parts of the panel, yes.
Okay.
It came in batches. They got the guts, but not the shell, and then the shell came in, and so they set that in place, and that allowed us to get the temporary permanent wiring in place, so yes.
So I understand they're still using power, excuse me, still using the power to do various items around the project. How soon will they get that panel finished?
They're waiting on the generator so they can do the final
Wiring for that?
wiring for the cutovers and all that.
Makes sense,
But
okay.
the building itself is wired and essentially self-sufficient.
Okay, good. Cost on, you got any updated estimated cost on sewer water project?
Yeah, if you look at the page 5 of the document that I handed, 2 boxes, 5.1 and 5.2, go through the current change orders. And they're called change orders, but Most of these items were not part of the original scope and scale of the bond issue for the building. For instance, the sanitary was not included in that bond. Lateral connection fees, the soil stabilization and all of those were not included in the original RFP and the phase 1 and the phase 2 report. So if you look at it, the off-site sanitary cost, $380,000 and some change there, is the cost to put the sanitary in. And then there's some hookup fees. Those items are going to be additional. Now with that 380, we are getting about 50% of that back with from citizens. So we're helping them and they're helping us. They want to get a lateral across our property so they can hook up for the other side. And we're just the mechanism to get that through. So we'll be getting part of that money back.
So that would be part of the, what,
That $380,000.
the 380? Okay. So that's still going to leave a deficit of something, somewhere in the neighborhood of 400,000.
Well, when you add all of those up, I think right now we're sitting at about 670. Then you take back the money that Citizens is going to give us
So
back
around 500 then, the shortfall, roughly?
roughly.
Okay. And is there any potential way of covering that you're aware of?
Right now, there are a couple avenues that we can go. I would suggest that since it does fall in a TIF district, that we use some TIF dollars to offset those costs. Would be my recommendation. The unit price for the building was an all or nothing for the building. So some of these items, the smaller items, are going to be covered out of the bond. And we saved $30,000 on the installation of our MagnaGrip system. So those funds, if we go over on our landscaping costs, those fees will balance out there. So there is a possibility we got a window for $2,500 and some of the quasi boxes for, $7,000 may get into some of the contingency money that we had set aside.
Well, I'd be interested in hearing how we accommodate the extra cost on this.
Would that have to go through the TIF, through RDC?
If we were to go that process, that route, yes.
It'd be interesting to hear how we move forward with this. Now, is there going to be any demand for this money? Is there going to be any demand for this money, these monies, before the end of the project?
Yes, that is the potential. They're already asking, to pay their contractors on the sanitary line, right? There was another project, another scope add-on. How do those folks get paid for that project? So, yes, they are asking for some of those funds. At the end of the day, we can possibly use the bond money to make those payments and then settle up at the end. I don't know the legal ramifications of doing that with the bond and how that works actually. So,
Hello, this is Ashley Albrecht. I'm attending virtually on behalf of CAM this morning. We'd be more than happy to discuss that with you. There's some options that can be done that way.
Ashley, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good. Thank you. That, I'd be interested in hearing how this wraps up. Please keep me informed or send something to all of us, including John, if there's a sense of urgency that comes along with this, where we have to.
Sure. And I mean, if it's part of the bond, sometimes the bond terms dictate items, and I apologize, I don't have that information in front of me today, but John, if you, me, and Cam want to jump on a call at some point, or even just you and Cam, I'll let him know that this came up. I'm sure he can help you with that.
Yes, let's do that. Thank you.
Excuse my noviceness, but this is Steve. Is there not a way to increase the bond once it's been issued? And if the TIF dollars aren't approved by the RDC, is this something that the city would just cover? Like it would come out of the city's budget?
Yes.
I would.
Sorry, Ashley, you can go ahead.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Yeah, you can say yes. I was gonna say, without knowing the entire structure of the deal, I would hate to say yes or no, but John, I'm sure you're more up to date with that than I am. The answer is yes or no, depending on certain things.
So for the record, this is Jeremy with the city. The bond issuance, those dollars are going to be consumed with what has already been contracted with the building. Any additional costs associated with these will have to be funded another way. There are two options. One would be the RDC. The other would be an additional appropriation to the fire fund to pay, general fund dollars to pay for it. Our intention was to get as far down the road as we can so that if there is a request for additional money, we know what that balance is. Hopefully, we'll be able to float some of these things with the bond proceeds, specifically for the sewer, and then balance it all out at the end of the project with either an additional appropriation or an appropriation from the RDC to utilize cash to pay for it.
With the hope of only having to make one request.
Correct. Yeah, we only want to go through the process one time, but there will be an ask either of the council or of the RDC.
Thank you.
Sure.
Perfect.
And generally speaking, once a bond is finalized, you can't amend it. I mean, you can, but you don't want to.
Okay.
If we used all the bond, or all the bond money, has that been allocated already?
They submit their pay apps almost monthly, and they do hold, was it 10% back retention? And
But
so,
I think what I'm asking is, we don't have any extra money from the bonds for the project that, you know, okay.
no, the answer to that is no. When they, when they signed the contract, it was, we're going to build it for this price. If there are any leftover contingency funds, that is essentially their profit. A few of these items are out of the scope of the original
Right.
bond issuance. So there are a few items, like I said, the smaller items that we can,
Yeah, so the bond was
Work in,
for the
but-
contract.
Yes.
not- I mean, we didn't, pack a little savings account in the bonds or anything. Okay, that's all I was asking.
well, there was contingency money in the
Yeah,
bonds for
of course.
overruns, but it does not include the items listed. Does that
Gotcha.
make sense?
Any other questions for Rob? Thank you, Rob.
Yes, gentlemen, thank you.
Forward.
I guess I did have one, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Do you have an anticipated move-in date now and all those things?
I don't.
Okay.
It's one of those things, it's been a moving target for a long time. I'm just excited that we can actually see the light at the end of the tunnel, literally, and
And it's not a train.
so far it's not been. So no, I don't have a date on the calendar or anything like that, but we will have a public open house, and I would like to get you gentlemen out there
I was
tour
gonna
the
say,
facility beforehand.
yeah, we'd like to set up a tour, so.
Yeah, we'll schedule some time and go out there and take a look.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, Mr. President, we just processed the pay app in the first week of June.
Okay.
And the current balance is 3.1 million.
I'm sorry,
The current balance is 3.1 million.
3.1, okay. Is that on track or on time, commensurate with where they are with the
Yes,
project
everything
according
is
to the
in-
timeline?
Yep, everything lines up right now.
Okay, good, thank you. Next item on the agenda is an update for the city parking structure with Old Town. Good.
I always love permanent temporary power. We just did that in a Carmel project dealing with permanent power as well. So Union Square project is getting exciting as of last week. So just to give you a little rundown, I sent some slides just with some information. If you want to go to the next one, or do I have access to do that? Appreciate you. Yeah, thank you. No, that's great. So just looking at the project schedule from where we were at originally to what we reported last quarter to current, you can see we've lost a little bit of time. I'll go through kind of what we've been doing last 90 days versus what's coming up next 90 days. But the garage is showing for that first quarter currently in 24. So you can see it's backed up about 4 months right now. The good news is we were able to get started on the actual work on site last week, and already through that we did our bypass in 2 days instead of 8. We've got the drain encapsulation pieces showing up today, tomorrow, and Friday. They weren't supposed to show up till Friday or till Monday of next week. So we are going to chip at this thing all the way from the start to the end. The good news is the time that our project teams have had to kind of sit and wait, they've been great in getting logistics and schedule and contracts and everything well sorted out and organized. So should have a smooth process moving forward. But we are going to continue to chip at that. We have a recovery schedule that we're putting in place to try and get back to our original dates. That's a pretty big stretch from being 5 to 6 months behind, but we'll do everything that we can. But it's encouraging that we've already picked up 8 days in the first 2 weeks. So we'll continue to do it that way. I added Future Building 1 and Future Building 2 on the original schedule. I'll continue to update this, but Future Building 1 is the northeast corner of 32 and Union. Future Building 2 is the southeast corner, including the historic firehouse structure. So we have submitted or put out design RFPs for both those buildings to solicit designers to get that ball rolling, and we'll have interviews the next 2 weeks on that. So here pretty soon I'll be able to kind of issue a design schedule followed by construction and kind of bringing those buildings along with this project.
So the building on 30, at the corner of 32 and Union, that was going to be torn down?
That's Ella's pharmacy currently,
The
yes.
pharmacy,
Yep.
yeah.
So the city will tear that down before August is what we've been told.
Okay. Has there been an architectural review on the other structure as to its viability to even use as part of, because as I recall, when Mr. Moffett was here, he discussed using the corner of that property as part of the new structure that they were going to use, that they were going to build there. Is that a fact?
We're talking about the firehouse here, correct?
Yeah, the fire.
You're talking, yeah. So the firehouse is on the southeast corner.
Yeah,
So Jersey and Union.
right.
We are going to temporarily relocate that, and it will be incorporated back into the site as a permanent structure. I do not believe at this time, we have not started the conceptual design. I do not think that it'll probably be a connecting structure to the new food and beverage structure that'll be there, but it'll be adjacent or complementary of it, if that makes sense.
Well, my real interest is understanding how viable that structure is to relocate and then replicate, or whatever, however. you're
Oh,
going
I
to
got,
do that.
okay. So we've been working with the moving company that will temporarily move it out of place so we can get a new foundation put in the ground and then move it back in place. We've had some assessments done on the structure, and through the professionals that do that work, they've determined that it is structurally sound enough to move and put back in place and reuse. Now that we've got the remaining part of the demo of the non-historic piece, they've come back out 2 weeks ago, I think, and kind of reassessed, and we're even more confident that it could be relocated and moved back in. So we've had those guys kind of looking at that and watching that, and we'll continue to do that through the move. But we do believe at this time that it will be able to be reused.
Will that be slowing the construction of the garage structure down much?
No. As far as the garage footprint, it did delay us in getting through the Section 404, which was the approval to relocate the drain and encapsulate it. There was a delay there, and that has caused us getting started. It is part of that 404 process to go through the Section 106, but we did. I guess that you could say that there was a part of the delay in that process.
So when do you expect to start the garage construction?
So the garage construction is scheduled for August. So we will get through June and July taking care. Well, we can go to the next slide. I can kind of help show you kind of what the next 90 days are. So the next 90 days, sanitary sewer relocation that actually was completed yesterday. The Kendall Drain bypass was also completed. So we have started the relocation and the encapsulation of the legal drain. So if you're out and about the area today, the box culverts are big. There's 56 pieces of it that'll be coming in.
We'll notice them.
You'll notice them, yes. I was going to send you a video this morning of the first one coming in, but I thought maybe it'd be too quick to get it up here today. But so we will get through that. We will temporarily relocate the firehouse as just part of that, so that we can start working on that corner and bringing the site grade up. And then the stormwater detention vault that goes to the south side of the site of the garage will go in. So that's really June and July. And then August, we will do the rammed aggregate piers. And then Lithgow, who will be the concrete contractor, will basically have the site from August to completion of pouring the garage.
When do you think the garage will be open to the public? We're getting a lot of questions from the neighbors about that.
Yeah.
I assume it'll be available before the project is finished.
The garage will be available for use. However, we have a similar kind of concept project in Noblesville that we're wrapping up, and it was determined that it was too difficult to open the garage early with the safety of public use and logistics. So we can continue to look at avenues or certain events or certain evenings that the garage may want or need to be used, and how we might be able to do that. But our starting stance would be we'd like to open the garage when the building opens up, but we understand that may not be what your desire is, so we can work through that as we need to.
Just on that point, I think Kayla Arnold with Westfield Welcome, and then our downtown association that manages the farmers market, would love to see if there's opportunities when there are specific events in the plaza next summer to maybe use the garage. Just throwing that out there. So
yeah, I think it's definitely something we can look at. One of the things in Noblesville that was hard was that we have a 5-story garage and the apartments wrapped completely to where access became a real nightmare. And then the fire marshal was actually the one that said, no, we're not going to do this. We're not going to allow it. So he couldn't get on board with the safety factor from the city standpoint. So as long as we can get everybody and we feel comfortable, then we can,
From a public relations point of view, I think it would be a terrific thing, both for you guys, for us, for everybody. But again, you've got some liability and security issues.
We want to make sure our workers as well as the public get home every day safe to their families. So, but certainly something we can begin to look at. I did meet with Jeremy and John Nail earlier, or I guess it was last week, to start to look at some potential design upgrades for the garage as far as occupancy sensor, some safety cameras, and some things like that. So we are working on some design elements and some rough order of magnitude costs for that right now.
So essentially, what I hear you say is that the garage will be completed on or before March 25th of '24.
Correct. That is current.
And it won't be available for occupancy until April 1st of '25. Is that right?
Per the current schedule, yeah. That would be our stance today if we were going to put one down, but certainly open for conversation.
John? John? We were talking about repayment and delays. He has just informed us that the garage, while completed next March, will not be available for occupancy potentially until April the following year. How does that impact the financing of this garage?
It doesn't, as long as we get it open before the first payment, the first principal payment is due.
First of
Which would, I believe, is July 1st
of '25?
of '25.
Okay.
Okay? I'm confirming that right now. I will have an answer, and I will update the
Will you
commission
please
accordingly.
Please get us an answer for that.
Will do.
Thank you.
So kind of talked about what's coming up on the next 90 days. The last 90 days, we've obviously been working through our citizens' approval for sanitary and water direct tie-ins. That has all been completed. The Hamilton County Drainage Board approval to relocate and encapsulate the drain, as well as the maintenance agreement, and then finalizing review and comments of the Section 106, which is the historic portion of that Section 404. And then we have, the last 90 days have completed the non-historic demolition of that firehouse structure. So we are currently ready to temporarily relocate that. And then I had a couple pictures on the backside just to share with you guys for a couple visuals. The one on the left is day one. That's the starting digging and locating the existing sanitary for relocation. Obviously, the new sanitary structure is there. That is 32 there, so we're on the north side. L is to the right, where Wolfie's would have been to the left. And the next slide. So the one on the far left is the bypass being installed. The one in the middle is the new relocation of the drain. So you can see we've got the bypass in, dry dirt, and kind of push that over. And then the one on the right is a cool picture that we took at the actual manufacturing facility of the drain encapsulation pieces when we went to visit to ensure that they were being made and were going to be ready for us. But that is about 20 of the 56 pieces lined up. And
Where are they being made?
I knew you were going to ask me that. And it's I'll find it for you right here after the meeting.
Locally?
It's
or?
close, yeah. It's
okay.
about 30, 40 minutes away. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then I think the last picture was just the current condition of the firehouse. You can see we've taken the completeness of the back section off, as well as kind of graded and demoed out the retaining wall that you can't see from the left now, and then protected what is exposed roof and a couple doors on the backside.
It has officially nothing to do with us at all, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. How, is everything cool with the, whatever that historic group was that?
Yeah.
Everybody
I mean,
on the same page now?
As far as cool, we've gotten through the process. We've satisfied and worked through comments that they had. We do have one more step in the process, which is the design of the building, the northeast building. Part of that agreement was that we gave them a design review time of 30 days to provide comments, just as a adjacent structure to the historic firehouse. I don't know that there's any requirements for us to take or do anything that they say, but we did offer that, so that'll be part of the design process of that building.
None of that's going through the city at all, right?
Correct.
Right, that's what I thought, okay.
Yep.
Thank you for that answer.
You're welcome. Any other questions for the project? Very excited to get it going. and it won't stop now until it's done, which is very exciting. And like I said, we are on recovery schedule from day one, but we will continue to try and beat those numbers quarter after quarter as we get through.
Do you have a timeline and for the different pieces of this project going forward?
Yeah, just like milestone
Milestone timeline.
updates. Yeah, I can follow up with a milestone
Yeah, I
schedule.
would appreciate if you would publish that.
Yeah.
At least get it to John, and John can get us a copy of it as
Sure.
needed. That way we can track with you.
Yes.
As to how we get this completed.
Yeah, and I'll even add something to the slides just so
That'd be
we can
fine.
have that meeting after meeting, so you guys can see
fine.
that progress.
Curtis, I know when this was still being designed, there was a question about how many public parking spaces there would be. And then the other question I've heard that I haven't necessarily heard an answer was, is floor 4 and 5 of the parking structure reserved for the apartments, or is it the first few floors, or is it scattered throughout? So do you have a sense now that things are moving forward as to how many public parking spaces there'll be, and then where would the public parking be located in the structure?
Yeah, that was conversation that I had with Jeremy and John, is kind of getting that finalized. So we are still working through that. I can follow up with the parking counts that we do have currently. From a location of the tenant parking spaces, of course, our preference would be to try and limit the walking distance that tenants would need to go to their apartments. But we also understand that this is very much for the public as well. We've looked at opportunities to kind of put some tenants on some floors and kind of mix and match, but that has not been defined yet. We're currently kind of in the process of just getting that started and worked through.
Because those are questions that we've been getting from the public, so.
And from experience of what we just went through, I think both us and the city let it go far too long on our other project. And so that was one of my initiatives with John and Jeremy, to kind of get those conversations up front and finalized before things get too far down the road. That way you guys can have the right narrative going out for your citizens, and we know what we're working for in agreement with the city.
Very good.
Any other questions that we would have?
Thank you for keeping us in the loop. We
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
If anybody ever wants a tour, our job trailer, there's guys there every day. Feel free to pop in and at any time, or you can schedule direct with me. But we can get you guys out there
As soon as there's something to look at.
for a while. Yeah. The drain encapsulation next week will be pretty fun to watch, I think, at least for a couple of them getting set.
My wife and I walk about 4 miles a day, and it's 2 miles from our house downtown.
Okay.
So we walk past that structure, or what hasn't been built there, so for a
Pretty regularly.
number of months now. So it'll be exciting to see something coming out of the ground.
Yes, I'm glad you guys will have something to look at when you get down here.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Okay. Is there any additional business that we should be considering at this time?
I have none.
Okay. Any comments, gentlemen?
Anything on the future police facility? Is anything moved along on that?
Sure, I can give you a little bit of an update. We are still in the schematic design phase, but there's been a series of meetings. They have a pretty good concept of what the layout will be and the size of the building. There would be a forthcoming RFP process to partner with a construction company, so to deliver the project with a build, operate, transfer, BOT methodology. This group probably may not be involved, but probably wouldn't be involved until we get to the period where we're going to be talking about debt issuance. We don't have a clear definition of how it will be bonded or funded at this point in
We
time.
don't have a solid site yet either, do we?
We have a site targeted. I'm hopeful to have a letter of intent with that property owner here soon.
Great,
Once this meeting is over, I'll tell you where it is.
okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Steve?
My only comment is just that I want to acknowledge Jeremy Lawler, his team at the city, John Rogers, your efforts, and Rob for the communication and transparency. I think you guys have done a fantastic job in keeping us updated to the extent that we're able to help with this portion of the project. So just wanted to acknowledge that publicly and thank them for doing their good work.
And having patience to put up with us.
I will agree with both the gentlemen on those points. And we do thank everyone for their participation today. If there are any further questions or comments, I will adjourn this meeting.